Welcome to this video. Today we're going to exploit server message block SMB. Again, I have a Metasploitable virtual machine that is running on IP address 192.168.1.171. That'll be our target, and I'm using Kali Linux as my attacker box. So I have again ran sudo nmap verbose version scan of 171 with the tac reason. So that just lets me know what the results in nmap, how they're reached. So as I go down to our results, I scrolled down and we've exploited some of these in the past. We'll continue on exploiting some of these in the future, but one thing that I really wanted to zero in on was this Samba. So again, I'm not going to make any assumptions, and I'm going to kind of explain my thought process for this. And also remember that you have to deliver a report as a penetration tester, and you want everything to be documented as much as possible, because someone is going to have to remediate this at the end of this. So try not to make any assumptions. The remediation may be passed to a network engineer or an admin or someone like that, and they need to know as much backstory of why you chose that as they do knowing what the vulnerability is and how you were able to exploit that vulnerability so that they can fix that. So as I start out and take a look at this, I just did a quick Google and came up with Samba here, and it looks like, reading through the information, that it runs on Unix systems, and so that is exactly what Metasploitable is. And so this looks pretty good. The name Samba comes from server message block, so we know it's going to be a SMB exploit. And if we go down a little bit, we look at the versioning history. What I'm interested in is the security part. So it does look like that there have been quite a few bugs associated with this. So this looks like it would be something that we would want to explore, and we would also want to include this as part of our report, again explaining what the thought process is and how we arrived at trying this exploit. So it looks like ports 139 and 445 are affected with this. So let's go ahead and open another window, and we want to make sure that our SQL is up and running, our PostgreSQL. So what I'll do is, first I'm just going to see if it is up and running. I'm going to do that with a status. And it looks like it is up and running. Now, if it wasn't up and running, I could use the command here and just add at the end of it start. So fairly simple. So let's just go ahead and start up the console. We'll let that spin up as we're looking through here. Again, we know that the target is Metasploitable. We know it's Unix, Linux, and it has the Linux kernel. So again, we know that's what the target is. Okay. So we've got Metasploit up. The first thing that we want to take a look at is there anything in Metasploit built in that might help us with this? So I'm just going to start with a search of SMB. So let me open this window a little bit and run that command again, get a little bit more real estate where you can see that a little better. So there are some things associated with SMB in here. Looks like there's 124 of them. What I'm going to be really looking at, since the scan says that it's version 3x to 4x, we don't know exactly what version it is. So the first thing really I want to know is, what is the real version of this? So as I'm starting to look through here and see, here's a SMB version. So that looks pretty good. It is version detection, so that's exactly what I'm wanting to do. And it looks like this is 95 is the number for it. Now, in previous videos, I have typed this thing in manually. Metasploit does have capability of you using the numbers, so I could use number 95 and it's going to populate that for me. So now what I need to do is, obviously this scanner has some options, so let's take a look and see what those options are. So there are only two options here. It is going to need the target host. Now remember, don't put that in as target, put that in as our host. Okay, so I'm going to set the R host, and I'm going to set that to the target machine 168.1.171. I'm going to hit the up arrow a couple of times to make sure that that did populate. Sometimes you'll fat thumb it, or you know, it won't take it. So doing this will help save a little bit of time. When you start this and you run it, it comes back with an error. Sorry, our host is unavailable, or you did not put anything in there. So it does look like we've got everything that we need. Let's just go ahead and run that and let's see what we get. Okay, so it did run. The scan was completed, and here's the information now that I'm interested in. So I'll just go ahead and copy that. Again, we now know what version it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and open another window. And what I like to do is put vulns on the end of this, but we'll do this a couple ways. First of all, we'll put vulnerability in there. And that's going to pull up, you know, all kinds of CVE information, you know, a lot of stuff, and you can surf through those if you'd like. But sometimes if you just put exploits in there, sometimes that'll help narrow it down. So it looks like the first choice here is Rapid 7. So I'll go ahead and open that. It does look like a username map script command execution. That looks good. It's from 2007, and let's see what it says here. Exploits a command execution vulnerability in Samba. There's our versions. When using non-default user map script configuration options, by specifying a username containing shell meta characters, attackers can execute arbitrary commands. That's good stuff. I like this too. No authentication is needed. Wow, That looks really, really good. Now, you're probably not going to find anything like this out in the wild. You know, again, this is for illustration purposes, but you know, this looks real good. So as we go down and we look at some of the commands, looks like that's the exploit. It wants you to put in some targets. That's probably going to be the rhost information. So let's take a quick look at this and see if we can run an exploit on that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and we'll go back into our machine, and I'm going to back up. I've already used the scanner, so now what I'll do is I'll use this, paste it in, and now let's take a look at the options that are available. So this is an exploit, and that exploit has a payload as well. It looks like what it's going to do is it's going to start a reverse netcat listener on port 4444 back to our machine, which is 129. So what we're going to need to do is set the rhost using autocomplete there. 192.168.1.171 is the machine. Let's hit the up arrow a couple of times and make sure that it took that, and it did. So it looks like that's all the information really that is needed. So we can go ahead and exploit this, and let's see what happens. Uh-oh, it looks like the rhost, look at that, looks like some fat finger. So again, even looking at it, sometimes you miss it. So I'll back up 168.1.171. Let me do that again and take a look at it. Yep, it is correct this time. Now let's go ahead and exploit that and see what happens. So it starts a reverse TCP handler. So that is going from my machine to the target. Look, we've got a command shell session. So let's see what this means. This is from my machine 129 on port 4444. And what's happening with this is it's a reverse shell. So it's actually calling out to my computer. Now you want to use a reverse shell whenever you can, and the reason why is because of firewall. Now Metasploitable does not have a firewall, so we really don't have to worry about that in this case. But when you are attacking a real world machine or network, they're going to have firewalls, and there are usually a lot of conditions and prohibited action for things coming from the outside in through that firewall, and not as much coming from inside the firewall or inside the network through the firewall out to the internet. So that's the reason why the reverse is what we're looking for. So let me see. I'd use the W. It looks like we're in there. I'm going to run the who am I, and I'm root. Now let's just verify that we are in fact in that machine, and I'm going to do that with ifconfig tac A for all, and there we have it. So I am in the target machine. So I hope that you found this valuable. This is a way that we can exploit SMB, server message block, using the port 139 and 445 and using Metasploit to run that exploit. So until next time, happy hunting.